option for multiple people to be hosts. Like, I hope that's like a thing that they end up doing down the line.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right. Give it a moment, but in the meantime, I guess we can ramble on as people come in.
Yeah, yeah. Happy Friday. I'm glad we made it to Friday.
Thank God, me too. This has been a long week and time has been going so quickly at the same time. And I'm just like looking up, like, man, like it's June 7th. Like, yes, it's still the beginning of June, but my birthday's at the end of the month. So I'm like, okay, let me figure out what kind of stuff I want to get done beforehand because that week I'm probably not going to be doing much. And I'll be taking the kids out, doing random stuff,
Yeah, yeah,
get my birthday freebies.
yeah. Well, we're closer to the official day of summer, so that's good.
I know, I'm
At least
excited.
here in the U.S., I see we have somebody joining us, Manjana, and I know he's outside of the U.S. So thank you so much because I know the time zone difference. So thank you for staying up late to to join
Oh,
us.
yes. Greatly appreciate it. And feel free to come on up anytime. This is kind of like a casual drop in, speak if you want to share something or offer tips. Or if you have a situation you want to share and talk through, that's fine too. But like we keep this very chill, hence the title. Just
Hmm.
general conversations. Like there's no super exact flow to these. It's just whatever we see, we discuss it and kind of move on to the next thing. Hey, Melanie. Feel free
Hi,
to come on
Melanie.
up if you're able. Okay, well, I'll just dive in because I really want to talk about this. So, first off, let me, I keep forgetting I'm the only host and I only direct that stuff. Hey, welcome on stage.
Hey there, how are you, lovely ladies, today?
Good, good. How are you doing? Happy Friday.
Truly, happy Friday. It's been a whirlwind week, so delighted to just pop in quick. I'm delighted the notification popped up that you were live. Is this something cool y'all are doing every Friday?
Yep, bi-weekly. Yep, so every other Friday we're here.
That's fantastic. And Clinetta, I hope I didn't mess up your name. How do I say your name?
You said it correctly, Clanetta. Yep.
Oh, fabulous! You're in a field that I love hanging out with people in. Delighted to meet you and having fun working with and collaborating with cool HR professionals and exploring some more about ERGs this week. So delighted to pop in and join you both.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for coming.
It's greatly appreciated. All right, so I do want to bring up one thing and then we'll just roll on into the conversation. So, something I've been seeing a lot on TikTok was the Chipotle manager. And I don't know if you had a chance to like view that, Quinetta, but like the guy, just the
No.
interview, I thought it was a skit at first, just how passive he was, but it was apparently a real interview. So I just wanted to bring that up. Like when it comes to management, like, so if anyone didn't see it yet, like he pretty much did an interview and people were talking about the portion sizes at Chipotle, how they don't seem to be uniform. And his response to that was like, oh, just give them a look and they'll just add more food to your plate. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know. It was just a weird interview. Did you get a chance to see it, Clonetta?
I did
Or Melanie?
not. No, I didn't get a chance to view it.
Yeah, so it's it made me think of something because sometimes I get clients, of course, that have like either franchises locally in like their local area or they're spreading out different areas.
Hmm.
And one of their main concerns are the uniformity of the processes. So like if they serve food, like will it be the same at every exact restaurant or will it be something different? Because I know y'all been to like a place that may have like multiple locations and like you're like, oh, only go to this location because the other one sucks and the customer service sucks.
Yeah.
So that made me think of that. Like whenever the was he the CEO, I think, of Chipotle, when he brought that up, I'm just like, this is a strong operations issue right here.
Yeah. And so what was, this was the CEO who did the interview?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that comes to mind, because it's, from my week, because this week I spent some time helping an organization recruit. Well, actually, we were doing final interviews for a senior director of communications role. And so I think that, again, like, companies forget about the importance of the specialized skills. And it took me back like this week and how, I thought it was overkill. But when I was with one of my employers, my role also, I really was doing, let me be honest, really they had me doing two jobs, okay? I was the HR and HR consultant at this company, and I was the community relations rep, which they had a whole separate person before I joined doing the job. And so I was doing two jobs, to be honest. And so, like, I remember they flew in like this PR team, and we had a basement, area with offices and things, and they kind of cleared it out, and they created like makeshift studios and different scenarios, and they put like me and like the executive management at the location through a few days of PR training. And so, like I said, they had these makeshifts, like scenarios, like one, someone's running up, putting a mic in your face, kind of an unexpected on the spot. Then they had like a more of a studio, like you're going into the news station and sitting down and doing an interview. And it was like good. Like, I'm glad that I had that experience, but I completely underestimated, kind of the necessity to that, because when you are in front of a camera and, or news, person that's recording you, and you're on the spot, most of the time people try to share too much, because just like with the interview process, most folks don't like silence, and so they feel like they have to fill in the gaps, so they just start talking, and oftentimes they say too much. And the media training is excellent in just helping you be mindful and just sticking to the facts or sticking to the script. And again, like that, there's correlations in HR, like, as if we're planning restructuring actions, I do like a whole strategic communications plan, and I drill into, like, especially the management staff and executives, like, stick to the script, and usually it's going to be short and concise. It's going to be like 2 to 3 sentences, like the who, what, when, where, and why, and that is all you need to say. Don't ad lib, don't add your own conjecture, sir, ma'am. Stick to the
Yeah.
script.
I love that you do that, because that is that is so needed, especially, shoot, everywhere really. The communication plans. I love that you offer that.
Yep, I just did that a few months ago on a course of one person, because he's smart. Some people are too smart for us. Ad libbed and then gave some wrong misinformation, like around dates, right? Which could have caused an issue because we had a union involved, right? And
Mm.
so, again, another reminder, like, Clanetta's not just being anal. So you stick to the script. Like, there's a reason for this.
And I feel like that's the problem too. Like, I can't even say that, because like a lot of these companies, like the bigger ones, they have people in place, but they just, I don't know, go off script, I guess, because it's just like
Hmm.
that interview just made me think, like, man, like,
Yeah.
where is like the PR, or like who's behind you making sure that you don't embarrass yourself like this?
Yeah, and I mean, and I've watched it happen over and over again and again, because usually you don't get this training. And the reason I got it is because of my other role that I was doing with my HR role in the community relations space, and it was in the oil and gas industry. And so that's a very controversial industry because of like the pollutants and things like that. So, we'd have people picketing a few times a month at least, and calls and complaints daily. And I was the contact, the local face for that organization in the community. And so, I needed to be prepared if asked questions or put on the spot. And people would come like, they're killing us, like it would be those kind of comments, right? You guys are
Yeah.
killing us, and so it's like, how do you respond to that? But they equipped me to be able to do that. But also that translated over as I started to move up the ranks in the executive world. And, you have to fly into plants and maybe you're doing town hall meetings and, you're up in front of your entire employee population, and maybe you're rolling out a new change, right? Or maybe there's some cuts that the organization is going through. Again, like, you're going to be put on the spot and you're going to be asked questions from people that may not be favorable of, the actions that you or your company is taking.
Thank you for that. I do want to stop really quick before we just like keep the ball rolling. You guys, thank you guys for coming in, and feel free to come up at any point. Since we added Erica, Mohammed, Jennifer, feel free to come up. We kind of just keep things casual for this, just
Mm.
because we don't really teach anything. We just kind of pick apart current events and talk about it from like HR and operations standpoint. So, like, if this is your space and you want to share tips or talk about something that you found, something that you've done with a client, anything along those lines, feel free to come up. Or if you just want to hang out with us on stage, we like that too. So I'll keep the ball rolling. Oh, hey, Christina. I'll keep the ball rolling here. So just kind
And
of
let me
something else I
just
want to
say
bring.
before we get started, I
Oh,
don't know if you guys can hear my background noise, but this is not my child holler. So I don't want y'all to think I'm over here doing something.
I figured I was like, like, well, since when did that happen?
Oh my goodness.
And I will
Okay.
say too, I have my two kids at home right now. So like if I randomly go silent or if it takes me a minute to like regroup, I'm talking to them. Something happened. So just throw that out there as well, because my kids like to bicker a lot. And I'm just like try to keep them busy, but whatever. So yeah, moving on. So just talking about like the Chipotle manager, I do want to talk about something else I saw too. I don't know if anyone else saw this survey, but I think it's from Resume Builder, but they were talking about like how some of the US businesses want to implement a 6-day work week. And of course, majority of males that took the survey just saying that, not saying y'all bad, nothing, but mainly males saying that they want to bring up the 6-day work week because pretty much the end goal is that they want to drive more revenue. So I would love to hear like opinions on that, because we're in that cycle of like people want a better work life balance and people want to introduce 6-day work week. It's just kind of like what is the disconnect going on here? Like what's happening?
No, one thing I do want to ask, like, are they sticking to like the 40 hours?
Girl, no, they were saying they believe there's a few of them that believe that people need to work over 40 hours.
Okay. And as
Yeah.
I shared with you the other day when you mentioned this, because I have my
Mm,
contractors are South America.
yeah.
Colombia specifically, I learned last year that it can be quite normal for them to have 6-day work weeks. Like typically, like full time for them is 6 days a week is 48 hours. So 48 hours is what they constitute as full time. And so I don't force my contractors to work like on weekends. Like if they're paired, because we do the offshore VA staffing, if they're paired with a client, sometimes there might be like they might want someone to help, and usually they'll oblige, right? And that's how the conversation came up, and they shared with me, well, you were used to working like 6 days a week anyway. So if they just need me to help a couple hours, on a Saturday, I'm fine with that. And I was like, oh, really? And so, so it's quite interesting. So, I am curious to understand, like, for the person that's proposing this, their vantage point, right? And, kind of where they're coming from, because they might be actually coming from one of those cultures that, for whom that's the norm, and they've seen success in it. So they think, we need to implement that here. I know we have a couple of guests that want to speak. I think Jennifer had her hand raised.
Thank you, Clonetta. Yeah, so the first thing that popped into my mind was nope. But I appreciate the perspective on, cultural differences around the work week. As a neuro inclusion accessibility consultant, I just have to bring up the inaccessibility of a mandated 6-day work week, in terms of what that means for neurodivergent and disabled employees, as well as employees who are caregivers of children, aging parents, sick family members. There are just a whole lot of considerations. I think about rural places that I've worked that have limited public transit on the weekends, and what that would do for somebody who has to be at work but doesn't have access to public transportation for the commute. So I think, like, awesome if people want to choose that life. And also, as someone who's advocating for more flexibility in work schedules, I don't know that a mandated 6-day work week is what is beneficial for, like, sustainability and wellness of the humans who are doing the work.
I love that perspective. And of
Yeah.
course, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, and again, I think for here in the U.S., that's not something that's been part of our culture, so it would be a cultural shock, right? But the reality is, again, those of us kind of in that who've gone through that the traditional corporate space, we know like the 40 hours is a myth. Like if you're in any type of management, let alone executive, hell, you working like sometimes 20 hours a day. Like people look and then they marvel at like, oh, well, you get to travel. And yeah, sometimes they're flying you first class here and there and stuff. But honey, you earn that because your day may start at 7 and then it really ends like sometimes 12, 1 o'clock the next morning because you're going, right? You might be flying out to a plant location. Like I mentioned before, you might be making announcements. You're staying, working with your folks. Then after, I know my cousin, we laugh about this because she's still in that corporate space. So after you get from the workday working with these people, all day, then you get to the hotel because usually you're all staying at the same hotel and they're like, hey, let's meet back down here in 5 minutes and go to dinner. Well, we all know like you're still on. Even though it's dinner, you're still on. And, and oftentimes I know with me, that people would want to kind of engage in conversations about the organization and get my thoughts about different individuals. You think they're a right fit for this role, and what have you. And usually, then we're back at the hotel, maybe like 8 or 9. Then you're like trying to scramble and do all the work for the things, and you put together spreadsheets or presentation decks for issues that came up during the day that you spent maybe on your on-site visit. And so you're working like through the night trying to get that stuff done. And so so that's why, like, I asked you, like, with the person that presented this whole 6-day thing, like, are they looking to split out like the 40 hours among the 6 days, or but it sounds like not.
Yeah, it sounded like they were being greedy, honestly. Like, I could
Yeah.
see if they were trying to, like, space out and do shorter days. It still wouldn't work well for me in my schedule, but, like, I could
Mm-mm.
see how it would be beneficial. But, like, yeah, they were just, from my understanding, it was just kind of like they were trying to gauge interest. And a lot of people were like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, people should work over 40 hours. Like, that should be a norm so the company can make more money. It's just like,
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it would take such cultural change, and I don't think it's even the best thing for necessarily for the American culture. I
yeah.
think that there's such a disconnect, like being able to go and travel and just sit in other countries and other cultures and just see how they value not being tied or tethered to their technology, not being tied or tethered to their phones, and like really being in the moment and spending that time with their families, and and valuing and putting those things first is again, it's amazing. And I think there's things that we can, learn or take from those societies. I'm seeing more and more Americans that are adopting those practices, even to the extent if it means that they need to relocate to some of those other countries, at least for a portion of of the year.
Nah, definitely. I do want to stop there. Feel. Oh, Melanie, go ahead. I was just about to ask.
Thanks so much, and thanks for all your gems. I think also from the perspective not only of culturally, but as Jennifer was saying, from a neurodiverse perspective, some of the DEIA clients that I support are sharing some challenges around people being able to show up for a full workday. So, as you're saying, some cultures just really can't support the expansion of hours, even if the focus or the corporate initiatives or goals are kind of shifting. And I think it is important to remember the diversity of just of the cultures as we consider expanding. Or they consider expanding. I think it's interesting just sometimes to throw it out if it's a culture that permits collecting the feedback from their employees, or if it's just a matter of making an announcement. As Clinetta would say, some announcements just are intended to just make waves, and your operations aren't necessarily set up to support it.
Sorry, I was talking to my youngest. Thank you, Melanie. Oh, Glenn, you have something to say?
No, no, I think that was good. I think that was
Yeah,
good feedback.
I appreciate it. So before going to the next thing, because like speaking of travel, I got something else I want to bring up. But I do want to pause right there and ask if anyone else wants to come up, or I know we got some more people in. Dr. Lisa, Jen, Delmar, thank you guys for popping in here. Feel free to come on up. We kind of like keep this space as like a casual conversation versus us just teaching. So feel free if you have anything you want to add, contribute to the conversation, anything that you've come across that you want to discuss, anything along those lines, feel free to come up, raise your hand, and bring you on stage. Or if you just want to hang up out here with us, feel free to do so as well. So I do want to bring up, speaking of travel, so there's another thing. Y'all have me on TikTok a lot. I'm sorry. So I'm gonna bring up TikTok again. This thing called quiet vacationing when it comes to like working the excuse me in the workforce. So I would love to hear your opinions on that. Me personally, I feel like people just talk too much online. I feel like they just need to keep their mouth closed.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be traveling, like it does not need to be online. And I kind of feel like this is why some of these corporations or management feels like they need to have people in office, because they're like, people aren't doing the work, they're traveling, they're not doing this, and blah blah blah, even though they may actually be getting the work done. But
Yeah.
because you see them online doing all this stuff, traveling, oh, I'm quiet, I'm quitting, things like that, it's just like they get nervous, like what's happening. So I feel like that's also why we're starting to see like we just talked about the 6 day work week or other things
Hmm.
happening. So I'm gonna stop there. I would love to hear some opinions on that.
So look, I did a little more research because I thought, I was like, oh, I'm quiet traveling or quiet vacationing, which they're saying there's an uptick with millennials. But actually, so I was a little bit wrong around the concept, because at first I thought, oh, okay, because I'm all for, I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe in work-life integration. But again, it's vantage point. And so I understand, like, some people don't strive to, kind of operate, in those executive roles. But like, you can't, some things you can't get around, right? And so, I would kind of look at employees, and even myself, I would get frustrated because I'm like, there's no way I can have balance. And then I started to pick up this concept around work-life integration, and it made it just better for me, right? Where I was able, if I needed to take off during the middle of the day to handle something I needed to do, I had the leeway to be able to do that. But then that might mean like maybe I'm picking up a meeting at night because, like, I have a team in China. And so, out of respect, like, I'll host a meeting at like 7 or 8 p.m. my time, because it's 7 or 8 p.m. or 7 or 8 a.m. their time, as opposed to just forcing them to kind of transition to my time zone. But So as I read some of the articles in more depth, actually what these people are doing is they are legit just going on vacation and not like taking the time off. And they're using like I just learned in the last few weeks about these devices, which I saw one you can pick up on Amazon.com. Look, a plug for Amazon for like $18 that like makes it appear that your mouse is moving. So you know how a lot of people use Microsoft Teams or other
Yeah.
apps companies have where you can see, and I was notorious for this when I was in the corporate world, because I would look and see, like, if one of my people were online, because then I would ping them like, hey, can you hop on a quick call, just to
Hmm.
knock something out. um, and so I know some people use it though to monitor their people. So there's actual apps that will make it look like your mouse is going. So like your light will always be green. And they were saying like also some of them like pre-schedule emails, which I do myself.
Yeah.
But they were saying they schedule them to like deliver like late at night and such to make it look like they're working long hours. And I do. I know some people are probably doing that. So it's a little bit of a different concept. But the reality, kind of piggybacking off of our last conversation, they probably really need these vacations. If they're working, again, like I said, most people don't get to work. Like if you're not hourly, if you're salary, you're usually not working a 40-hour work week. You're probably working more like 50 or 60 hours. And
Yeah.
so, on one hand, they're almost do that, but I think, again, there's an opportunity for the organization to maybe look at, kind of their time off policies and things. And, and again, like, consider veering from the traditional because what's worked for the last 30 or 50 years, again, the world is so different now with technology. I think there's opportunities for organizations to become a little bit more creative, to maybe work toward more of a work-life integration kind of perspective, so people don't have to sneak and do these things.
Oh man, I didn't know they were actually like vacation. Like I kind of saw it and I took it
Yeah,
as like, oh, maybe some remote workers just kind of
yeah,
going somewhere, a different location. I know some people still had a problem with that, and I was like, don't see. I'm just
yeah.
like, as long as the work's getting done, but man, they go on vacation, so yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah, that's what
I
I
can see why.
originally thought. And again, and that's weird for me that people actually take issue with. Again, if you're allowing people to work remotely, they should be able to work remotely wherever. They may be a traveling spouse. Again, that work life integration, because maybe their spouse, or significant other is on the road like all the time. And if they're working remotely, there may be opportunities where they're able to tag along, especially if they're going to a cool place. And I don't take issue with that. But there are some companies and some, managers that actually take issue with it. And again, if the person's getting their job done, no issue with that. But my understanding with, again, these articles with this millennials doing this quiet vacationing, no, they're just literally taking full on vacations without using their PTO time. And they're using these devices and things to just make it look um, like they're working
Mhm.
or what have you.
I wonder if I know it's definitely probably a policy thing we'll probably discuss, but I wonder. Well, I'm curious. Like, how would you like if you had a client dealing with this? Like, what's something
Well,
people could do to kind of I don't want to say
well, they
stop
could.
it, but like kind of work ahead of it.
No, they could be written up or fired, terminated because they're still in time from the company. Like technically, like if they're truly in the
Mm.
essence that this article is described, if these people are truly like on full on vacation and they're just not using like their time off, they're actually
Yeah.
stealing from the company. So they could be subject, based upon that company's policies and things, they could be subject to discipline up to and including termination. So I mean, it's like I said, it's funny to me, but I find some things funny that others don't sometimes. But at the same time, like no, there's real repercussions. But I get encouraged as the youth and some of their again, just some of their boldness. Like,
Yeah, definitely. Because I I can imagine doing something like that and feeling fine. And especially my thing is just like the internet thing is just like we gotta. I don't know. There has to be like some kind of balance. Like I know people like to share stuff, but it's just like people overshare, and I've seen
Mm-hmm.
like they kind of leads to like the layoffs and stuff. Like people are saying like, oh, like you're going on like I get paid this amount of money, like six figures, multi six figures doing this role, and then layoffs come and theirs is one of the first ones to get laid off because they felt like, oh, like I guess we don't really need this position anymore. So it's interesting how like stuff kind of comes comes alive, I guess.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely, definitely.
I'm sorry, one second. My kids kids are arguing. I'm sorry, y'all. Give me one moment and then
Oh.
we'll keep the conversation flowing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, does anyone out there have any comments or take on the quiet vacation? And have you guys, um, encountered that yet? Or do you know people that maybe have, taken part in the quiet vacation? And I'd love to hear your opinions.
Okay, I'm sorry. So
No,
yeah,
that's
they go to
okay.
camp next week. All right.
I was just asking our guests if they had any opinions or comments around the whole quiet vacation and thing. All right, let's see, Delmar.
All right. Okay, good. She came up. I was like, LinkedIn likes to move slow.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, yes.
I've never come in on a LinkedIn audio event before, so thank you. Learn something new every day, but it's all good. Hey, Andriana. Hi, Clonetta. How are you all?
Good,
Hey,
good.
so
Thank you
happy to
for
see
joining.
you.
Good to see you, too. I hope you had a good presentation down in Florida, Adriana. We'll talk about that offline. I know you did. I know you did. I kind of hopped in kind of in the middle of y'all conversation, but I was hearing about the quiet, the quiet vacation, and Lord have mercy, coming up with different names for everything. The quiet vacation, and I saw something online too as well that Clonetta was mentioning about getting some kind of device that'll make it look like your own vacation, or that your mouse is moving and you're all plugged in. And I wonder, and I'm gonna ask you ladies, I wonder. First of all, the employee population is different now. The employee environment is different, especially among the generation that is coming up, or the younger generation now. I don't even know what letter they're on now. I know it's Generation Z, and I don't even know what letter they're on now. But do you see that it has a lot to do with if the companies are doing anything with the kind of culture that they have created, or hadn't, or their culture hasn't, what am I trying to say? Their culture hasn't evolved to what the work environment is now and how people are thinking, especially, from 4 years ago, a couple of years ago, when we were coming out of COVID and all the things that happened with it. You got the quiet resignation, you got the quiet quitting, now you got the quiet vacationing and all those kind of things. So I'm wondering, what do you guys think from the kind of culture that people are building in their business or have in their business that hasn't really shifted with what the world is, how the world is operating now compared to what the thought may have been pre-COVID?
Yeah, no, I think that's part of it. I think, part of it is the fact that these companies have not evolved,
Yeah,
right,
that's
in their
mm-hmm,
thinking. Because most, usually your leadership is going to be kind of your older generation, right?
mm-hmm, yeah,
And
mm-hmm,
they're probably, 20, 30 years in their career. And
mm-hmm,
so they may not be evolved in their thinking. Plus, they also have to wrestle with, again, the things that, you know, made them successful.
mm-hmm,
And they were able to become successful in that culture. So, that's ingrained in them as kind of the right way to do things. But like again, like I said, I marvel at like with these young folks and the things they come up with, because while yeah, it's wrong for them to do, to use these devices, but there's a little bit of brilliance in it, right? And it just shows how their mind works. And it'd be interesting if organizations found a way to be able to tap into that brilliance to, maybe propel their organizations, right? However, they're trying to keep them confined to these strict rules and regulations versus allowing them the freedom. That's why I think you see an exit with especially like young people going into entrepreneurship because they want the freedom, right? And the reality is, oftentimes you're going to work harder for yourself than you ever would anyone else if you want to be successful. But you find creative ways to be able to do things. Again, you learn about new technologies. You're not afraid to implement technologies and things of that nature. So I think it is, as you're saying, a symptom of organizations trying to stick to these stringent rules and regulations that have been the tradition. And, and I think the younger generations are kind of fighting against it, but the way that they're doing it is they're finding creative ways to use the technology that, has come into our world now to be able to maneuver some of these things. So, like I said, I chuckle at it because some of it, to be like I said, to be honest, some of it is quite brilliant. But some of them they're losing their jobs, though. Let me preface that because
exactly. Yeah. It may have a level of creativity and brilliance, but then there's also the consequence side of that, like you said,
because that's termination. Yeah, the way that I became aware of this device is from a Facebook group. Thank you, Christina, for plugging me into that group. But the individual shared that all these folks, like over 100 people, have been fired from their company already because that's what their IT department has found out about these devices and actually has a way to be able to decipher now whether or not it's natural strokes like of the mouse or if it's a device. And because again with the device I think it's it's a routine pattern like every certain second, and so they're able to determine that it's not an actual like human that's moving this mouse or what have you. And so people actually from her company, and she said she was worried she was worried she was going to be next. But again, like that's the risk you took.
And I think, you had mentioned, I know we're talking about remote and everything, you had mentioned about, some of the old guards, as I call them, the old guards of corporate America, maybe language with these, because when there's 5 generations in the workplace now, is it 5? I've lost count because I hadn't been in corporate in so long. But they still have the language a lot. The old guards still have the language of, well, we've always done it like this, or this is how it's supposed to be done, as though there's no other way to do something effectively, or just as effectively, and just as impactful than what they may have been doing 10, 15, 20 years ago. And then on the remote side, well, remote is not going anywhere. I think we all are pretty much kind of clear about that, although old guards are still wanting people to be on site more so now in the last year or so, the last year and a half of being on site. It's like we live in a technologically advanced world. Why does somebody have to be on site for 40, 50, 60 hours a week? I really can't wrap my mind around that now. Obviously, there's certain jobs that you have to be on site, doctor, nurse, fireman, all the things, okay? But for most people that are working, they're probably working in maybe more administrative, maybe operational roles or something like of that nature that can utilize hybrid situation if it's not fully remote, especially on the administrative side. And of course, a lot of things fall under administrative. But so I'm just wondering that I'm just really just throwing out thoughts really, because it's a lot of people now, a lot of companies, I believe now, and maybe the larger companies versus maybe the smaller companies, but are looking for people to be on site because they still want that feeling of oversight, and some are doing it as a point of micromanaging, but that's how you lose good people. So
No,
I'm not.
I agree. And
Yeah,
then let's be honest, we're in the U.S., right, which is a capitalist
yeah,
society.
yeah.
The reality is some of it is being driven by economics because these companies and corporations have these buildings that they own, or even
Hmm.
worse, that they're leasing. And
Hmm.
like there is like last year, I came across some data points around like the next crisis has to do with the commercial real estate market
Oh,
and
yeah.
the billions of dollars of debt um, that these companies are have right in
Yeah.
commercial real estate, and how they actually have started to fall behind in their payments. And so there's been encouragement to drive, the workforce back actually into the office to utilize the space, as well as the other implications that occurred during that whole shutdown period, and with people getting used to working from home, the foot traffic for, you're driving in the morning and people stopping to get their coffee and donuts and things like that. Those companies lost out economically as well. So there's been a concerted effort to be able to drive business back to the state that it was like pre-pandemic. So there's a lot of like things at play that are driving some of that. But I will tell you, I enjoy working remotely or being able to work from wherever I want.
Hmm.
But I think there's balance to that because not
Sure.
everyone
Right.
can do
Right.
that. And so, some organizations have experienced employees who've taken advantage or maybe
Hmm.
who aren't really focused on their jobs. And things are slipping through the cracks. So there's balance, that needs to take place there. But then
Yeah.
also, like, I have a friend that started a new job and it's on site. She was saying, and it startled me because she was like, they really have everything here. Like she was like, it's like they've made it so that there's no reason to leave. And she
Mm-hmm.
kind of laughed, kind of funny, haha, but then not funny. Like it's almost like they're trying to make it so we don't have to leave this place. And so, you
Yeah,
know,
it requires a balance, and it's definitely an economic thing. And I totally get that. It's definitely
yeah,
an economic thing because, but even during the COVID, there were several like major companies that got rid of their leased buildings.
mm,
They didn't, they found this. Oh, of course, a lot of people went through that, right? At the height of COVID, I know Nationwide Insurance, if I'm not mistaken, was one of the ones I read where they kept their main corporate office, but the other ones they like everybody go home. But a lot of people did that in 2020 and 2021. So
yeah,
I
and
understand
that
people.
was smart. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
smart.
very smart for them at that time, wasn't it? So I understand the economic side of things, the economic side of it, of people, of the companies needing the people come back on site and all those kind of things. So it makes sense because not everybody, like you said, can work remote, and not everybody wants to work remote. Honestly,
Yeah.
they feel productive, actually in the building. So I totally get that. But those who do have a remote or hybrid environment, I believe they have to put in more, like I said, more of a balanced perspective of, okay, how can we really, get productivity from the employees and yet still have that balance of them being able to do the hybrid or the remote schedule. So it's a lot of things going on out there. It's a lot of things happening.
I love that y'all brought this up, and I'm sorry I wasn't inside the full conversation dealing with the kids, but I'll say from what I've noticed, just from my own, especially those that have like remote teams and hybrid,
Hmm.
like pretty much like y'all said, like there needs to be a lot of updates, like how to handle them. Like some of them are like, okay, yeah, we'll do remote, but they don't have like the processes in place to actually keep them working and sustaining and stuff. So that's why a lot of them are like, oh no, we need to do it in person because like it's that adjustment has been hard. And I realized too, especially with some of like the older generations I work with, like it's really hard getting them to see what needs to be changed and actually getting them to want to implement it so it actually is successful. So I don't know if y'all already tackled that, so I apologize if I am repeating something, but I do love this topic. Honestly, we might need to make this a full room one day about remote.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it's just so many things that go into what is happening in the workplace environment now, and just what's happening in the economy, and just all the things that work together, right? All the things that work together, and what that should really look like. And obviously, there's some companies out there, I'm sure, that are more successful, with how their remote teams are set up, and or their hybrid teams are set up. But then I think there's always going to be just maybe a group of people, okay, a group of people that are always going to look for a way to get around it. Hence, this whatever this tool is that now is out there to think that it can manipulate enough for people to think that it's you that's actually on the keyboard. So I think that's something like that. I think will always exist, and not just with remote working, but in different industries and just in different things that come about. The technology has allowed for so many things to be created, or people to sit down and think about, okay, how can what can I create for this to happen, or what can I create for that to happen. So I think because of how advanced technology is, those kind of things won't go away, but the workplace market is still big enough to the big and small companies is still big enough to create the kind of atmosphere that will still create productivity, still create engaged employees, still create people who want to show up and actually be a contributing factor to the success of the business, then also to their own professional success as well. But that's my take on it. I mean, it can, we can have all kind of conversations around this. So
No, I think, also in addition, one miss, like again from the HR lens, I think that there has not been that concerted effort and investment in training managers on how to manage people remotely.
mhm,
And
mhm,
so many were thrust into it and they never had to do it, manage that. And so there's ways to bring about cohesiveness and you can create a company culture, like remotely. Like I have folks in other countries, right? And I feel like lock and step with them, but it's because there are those constant touch points. Like again, I do them the same way like when I was in corporate, like I mentioned with teams, because that's just my style. Like if something hot comes up, I'll look and see, okay, are you available? Look, hey, can we hop on a quick call?
mhm.
Just as like if we were in the office, like I might stop by somebody's office, or I might send them a note, like, hey, can you step in my office? I want to talk with you. And so, it just again, I realized, some people just have struggled with even how to manage their teams effectively in that remote space. So,
And there's a lot of people that are put in management positions that don't necessarily need to be in people management positions. And they, like I said, they need to be developed. They need to be trained. They need to, um, they need to be developed from their professional standpoint and how to people manage. Because we've all experienced that before, I'm sure. In our
yeah.
corporate lives, it's like, why is this person a manager? It's like you probably need to be the manager of a process. That's different, right? The manager of a process, you know how to do it well, and you get it done. But the management of people, especially in the work environment now, I believe if you don't have that skill set to be there, it's not that you're a bad person or anything. You got skills, obviously, but you may not necessarily be in the right position. And I think that can, like you say, can also be a hindrance because we're putting people that are hiring are putting people in putting warm bodies in seats versus finding out what is really that person's strengths and what are those areas of opportunities before you just put them in a position that you think they can work at because they did something great one time or two
Yeah.
times, whatever. So that's why I'm always a proponent. It's like, do some strength assessments or something, whatever. It's all kinds of assessments out there that I like, but do some kind of strength assessments and really figure out the brilliance of the people who are sitting in your office.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times that ball is dropped too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, oftentimes people are rewarded with management positions because usually that's the only, like, that's the career trajectory, right? To be able to promote them and have them earn more money. And so they're rewarded and put into those positions based on, like you said, based upon their contributions as an individual contributor. And they're thrust into those roles without
Mm-hmm.
any training and development on people management. And you're right, they
Exactly.
should not be managing people. Some of them shouldn't even be allowed to talk to people. Like, you know.
Yeah, so I feel like that too. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's about developing your people. I mean, that's one way companies, and I've worked with a lot of small business owners. So I hadn't been in corporate a long time, but obviously I know corporate people. But that's why I try to tell my clients, or just small business owners that I just communicate with or come across with in networking or whatever. It's like, how are you developing your people? I don't care how big or small your team is. I don't care if you have a team of 4 people, 3, 4, 5 people. Okay, great. You still have people that you can develop that can evolve. They can evolve professionally, and then that also adds to how their business is growing and being impactful in the marketplace. So that development is critical.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you for letting me join the conversation. This was kind of cool. I see the format that what it's about. I used to be on the other platform back in the day, but I kind of like this LinkedIn audio action.
Yeah, yeah. No, we love it. Again, this is the water cooler, the Friday morning water cooler.
Yeah, I will be back. Thank you for inviting me, Adriana. You had sent me an invite on
You're
LinkedIn.
welcome.
Yeah.
And I owe you a message. I was telling Cornetta, I was like, this side has been chaotic like the past month with the graduations and stuff, but you definitely will be getting a message from me when my kids are in camp next week.
Oh, no worries at all. No worries at all. I'll be looking out for you.
I appreciate you.
Adriana is counting down for that.
Yeah,
I
girl.
know, listen, I know all parents are. It's like full. I was just in an email with somebody who said summer is in full swing with her. I said, I'm sure it is with those of you all who are parents and parents of school-age children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like the navigation piece and stuff. Is like, all right, let me try and get this. Someone's gonna be busy. Someone going over to the next person. Like, yeah, y'all gotta, y'all gotta get up out of here.
Very good.
All right. Well, I guess if we're done the conversation, we could end the room a little bit early, Cornetta.
All right.
Well, I appreciate. We always stay talking at the same time. Let me keep my mouth shut.
No. I was just saying, very good. No, I think this was a great discussion this morning and good topics that I think, again, it'll be interesting to watch and see how these develop, especially over the next year.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I was sitting here taking notes, like, we can actually bring some of this like the next thing. I was like, I think change management probably be a good one for like the next couple of weeks. In a couple of weeks, was it June 21st?
Yeah.
All right, so boom, we'll do that. So on June 21st, we'll be back with Tales from a Water Cooler, and we'll talk about change management.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. Y'all have encouraged me that I need to be doing audio events.
Yes, please do.
That's
I
good.
will. And I will invite you guys in. I mean, you guys, you ladies in, all right?
All
And it's
right.
like, 'cause I usually write mine, right? Which is cool, and I nothing wrong with writing your posts and stuff like that. But I have my LinkedIn article name or newsletter, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Newsletter. It's called HR in Small Doses. I actually want to do it as an audio.
Okay. So
So
that would be awesome. I think, again, because of, like earlier we talked about the U.S., people are on the hustle and bustle. They can listen to that in the car or if they're on their walk. So that would be good.
yeah, I think I am. So okay, so you guys join me and I join you guys, you ladies, and we exchange conversation.
Absolutely.
Yep, send me the invite. I'll be there.
I will do that. I will. It's kind of cool. I think I will.
Yep. And let's make sure we connect on here, Delmar.
I will. I will do it right now. I'll send you
Okay. Awesome.
a connection. Yeah. You ladies have a wonderful weekend.
Yes,
too.
you too.
All right, everybody. We'll be back June 21st. We'll be talking about change management, and I hope you guys are able to join us. Y'all have a great weekend.
You
All
too.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.